In this video, we're going to start creating a design system from scratch using Figma. So we're going to break it down into multiple modules, the very first one being the colors. So we're going to go ahead and create a frame, which is going to be 1440 pixels. Now, the size doesn't really matter at this point, but I think it's a good base to get started. And we are going to rename this to colors. And if you want, you can use Control, Command, and Spacebar in order to add a emoji, which might be color palette. And yeah, this is, of course, it's optional, and for some reason it didn't catch. And here we go. Perfect. So we're going to add a text, which is going to be core colors. And going to just stick to Enter. Again, doesn't really matter the font at this stage, at least. And we're going to make this one bold, and we have the base going. Now we're going to focus for the very most part, of course, on the color system. So we won't really spend too much time on the top section as we would as if it was a real client project. Usually for client's project, I would probably have here below a brief description of what is this section of the design system, and just to give an overview to people who aren't really familiar with it, as just developers or stakeholders. Maybe we can have some branding elements such as the logo or the website on the right, but overall I like to keep it quite simple. So let's go ahead and let's create the base of this design system. So we're going to have first of all the brand colors, and these are going to be the staple colors of the brand. So usually it's between 1 and 3 to 4 maximum colors, which are going to be the primary, secondary, tertiary, and so on. So this is going to be the base, and what we're going to do is we're going to add some sort of a rectangular shape in order to have the main color, and right below or on the sides of that, we're going to have textual information as to what is the color naming code, and any other useful information that we might want to consider. So let's just pretend that the main color of the branding is going to be a blue tint, and simply going to keep it like that. And we are going to add a text on the right side, and we don't want these elements to be too big, because we're likely going to have many different shades and elements. So let's just keep it loose for the time being, and then we can obviously resize and reorganize these. So let's call this primary blue. We're going to add right below it the hex code. Now, as you can see over here, you can see by default that the color code is the hex code, which is extremely useful, especially in the digital realm, such as in web design. But you can also select RGB if you want to see the RGB version, the CSS, and also HSL and the HSB. Now, some of these are going to be more specific. If you want, you could add, instead of just the hex code, which usually, as the name suggests, has this hashtag at the beginning, you can also add more information about the colors, for example, in RGB mode. But for the most part, this is going to be sufficient for this example. So we're going to make this into medium. We can, of course, create a duplicate here. We can have, or actually, we can simply use the auto layout feature using Shift+A in order to add the auto layout section, and we can select both of these and create an auto layout as well using Shift+A. Now at this point, one thing that we can do is to sync up the color according to our needs. But before we do that, what I'd like to do is, and I'm just noticing that this one should actually be smaller. And here we go with the auto layout. So basically one thing that I want to keep in mind is that I first of all want to establish all of the main color section and then start interlinking, because otherwise I'll need to desync the colors. This is going to make sense in just a moment as we go through it. Now, just noticing that this should be perfectly aligned. That's the way it goes. So let's do one thing. Actually, simply going to quickly redo this, bring it over here and duplicate it. You can simplify your life without adding the auto layout immediately. But basically now we're ready to add the color style. So we're going to click on style. And as you can see, I already have a library connected from another client. In your case, you're likely not going to have anything over here, so not a big deal. And what you want to do is to create a new variable. So I'm going to click on new variable. As you can see, the same color is shown right here. And what you want to do is to name the color exactly as you intend to have it in the design system. So in this case, it's going to be primary blue. You can also add a description, which is useful, again, for other team members especially, but also as a personal reminder of what are we using that color for. So in this case, this color is the primary color of the brand. And we can check the properties, and at this point we can simply create the style. You can see that now we have the color right here in the styling system, and now we can simply go along and basically adjust the other colors as well. So I'm going to write here secondary. Actually, let's do just a secondary color. I'm going to make this tertiary color, and let's say that this one is going to be a darker shade of blue, and this other one is probably going to be a different color for the brand, such as this yellowish, orangish, and we're simply going to adjust these elements right here. Now, of course, you can create the colors structure as you prefer. The layout doesn't need to be this way. You can also, organize these and change the corner radius to make it better. All of these things don't really make a big difference overall. So don't really stress out on the details. And for some reason this one isn't catching, because probably have another one below, but I'll simply reverse the corner radius for the time being, since that is really not the point of the video. The point of the video is how to create the color system in an efficient way. And we're going to start, of course, with the brand colors. Then what we want to do is to identify which are the most important colors that we're going to use within the system. So these are the brand colors, but we also have the primary colors that we need to identify. And these are also going to be colors such as error states or positive states or warning states. So core colors that we're going to use within a UI or a website. And just before we do that, let's create the color also of these right here. Let's add these to the library. And I'm going to go here under library, secondary color. And we're going to avoid the description for the time being. And we're simply going to keep it like this. And as you start noticing, we are going to have quite a few of these, and there is an inconsistency within the naming. So this is another point which is extremely important whenever you're creating a design system. And in just a moment, we're actually going to see some real life examples of how things can get tricky real fast, and how you can organize in a very efficient way your design system. So if I want to change the naming of a color in the design system, I can actually simply click on edit style, and I can simply delete, for example, in this case, and I'm going to click on X, and I'm simply going to simplify these color naming directly like that. So very easy, and you're going to see how you can create even more organization within the design system in just a moment. But before we do that, let's go ahead and I'm simply going to duplicate this. I'm going to select the original color, and I'm going to unlink it. So this is going to detach the style. And the reason why I want to detach the style is because I need to create an entire different color associated with design system. So I don't want to detach it manually each and every time. So I'm simply going to go over here. I'm going to add a few more of these using our shortcuts such as Option 2 and Command D, as we explored in other videos. And what we're gonna do is we're going to start writing in different colors. Let's do violet. Then let's say that these are going to be some staple colors for the UI states. And let's just go ahead and select a few of these colors as we want. So let's go ahead and let's do this one. Let's add maybe a green, which is going to probably be around these lines. And let's go ahead and add also the violet right here, which you can easily do. And let's also add a indigo color. It's going to be very similar to the violet, just a little bit more on the dark side. And at this point, what we want is also a slate. It's probably going to be a slate color is essentially a gray with a tint, a little touch of blue. And this is going to be the base. Now this violet is taking up a little bit too much visual emphasis, in my opinion. So, all right, at this point, let's simply adapt the hex code associated to that very color. And let's do that also for the green. And let's do the same also for the orange, as well as the red. Perfect. So again, all of these colors, then we can change, we can adjust, so it's not set in stone. At this point, I'm going to go over here under style, and one thing that I can do is to actually select say primary colors, or even primary, and I can use the slash, then slate, and actually had to do this on the plus. For some reason I was doing it on the search, assuming that I already clicked on the plus. So definitely click on the plus, and under the name you want to use the slash, which is going to create a folder hierarchy. Now if I click on create style, you can see that now we have a heading on the top, which we can definitely adjust also on the brand colors. So again, if I go here under primary, now that I'm starting to add more colors, this is going to become more and more of a necessity in order to keep the file organized and clean. And I use brand slash, and again brand slash to create that folder hierarchy. Now you can see how we are starting to have an organization between the brand and the primary. We're going to do the same also for this one right here. So let's write primary slash, I'm simply going to use copy and paste for the next ones, indigo, create style, then over here again, this one's going to be violet. Gonna do the same for the green, orange, and also the red. So you can see how we have all of these styles well organized, and yeah, this is looking pretty solid. Now let's go ahead and create the various tints of specific colors. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the slate. So what we intend by tint, and the reason why we want to add tints to a design system is actually quite simple, and let's do one thing. So we're going to add it over here like that, and again, you can organize these as you wish. You can then, you know, take these and basically organize them so that they are more visually consistent within one another. We can also slightly adjust the frame. Again, this doesn't need to be responsive unless there is a very specific reason, which I definitely wouldn't have encountered in all the years that I've been doing this. But it's just to have a base overview and a clear understanding of why we're doing what we're doing. Now, we want to create the different tints, and the reason why we're doing that is because we want to have darker shades of the color as well as lighter shades in order to cover for multiple scenarios, because in some instances I might need this slate color in a very dark gray tone. In other instances I might need a very light one. So how you can create this? One way could be, and we'll need to detach the style, so let's do that real quick. So one way is you could do it manually, but let's be honest, it's not really the best and most precise way to actually tackle such a to address this issue. The best way really is to use one of the many tools that there are out there to create color shades. So I can actually simply go on Google and write color shades, and you can find these tint and shade generators. You can also write color shades generator, and you're going to find a ton of free color shades. Now I think this one from ColorKit, and also Gradients app, also this first one is going to be good. So for the very most part, you can see you can add a color, which in this case, simply going to select the slate tint. You can add a color right here, you're going to see all of the different tints and shades of that color. Now, you can find the generators, it's just this one right here, which allow you to select how many shades you want of a given color. So, for example, over here, I can select 8 shades, and this is going to be quite useful. So I'm actually going to use this one right here. And again, there's so many, so you definitely don't have any shortage of free resources to do this. So the way that I usually do it is I simply copy a screenshot and I add it right here. You can also type in manually, or simply copy and paste. I'm sure you won't really copy this manually, but basically this allows you to have different elements. And one thing that I want to add though is the darker shades. So as you can see, as I scroll down, I'm also going to find the darker shades. So probably in this case, it makes more sense, since you don't want to have too many shades, to just have this 4. And then we want to have these 4 right here, so that we can more easily add these different shades and tints. And the last one is white, because of course it's on the other side of the spectrum. We're still going to add some a slight tint of slate. So the way that I do it is extremely simple. Simply select the first one, use this this element right here. And actually for this one we could simply get started without the black, and we can go on the second one. We can go here and then adjust these ones here. I'm simply going to add these 5, since I want to avoid having the black and the white. I don't think it makes sense to have them in the realm of the tints and shades of a color. I'm also going to write here slate, and let's simply adjust this so that we can have the actual slate color right here. And let's adjust these other items as well. And here we go. So at this point, what we want to do is to identify what is the number of the slate color that we are identifying. And in this case, since we have 5, it's probably going to be something like 500, 400, 300, 200, and 100. All right. And as I'm looking at this, probably just want to keep the 100 on the same line, just so that we won't have too much vertical width for the other states as well. So at this point, what we want to do, of course, is to add them in and sync them into the design system. So the way that I will do it is simply go over here, add a plus, of course, and I'm going to write slate and then slash the number associated to that color, which is going to be 500. So I'm going to copy this one for the next, create, and as you can see, you have this very nice organic folder structure. So you have slate, title over here, and then the number. I'm going to select these, and I'm going to do exactly the same thing for these other ones. So let's go over here. This one's going to be slate 300, and as we add them, you can see that it creates this nice, basically, we already had 200, yep. And we're going to add the very last one, which is going to be 100. So as you can see, now we have the primary brand colors, the primary colors which are associated to the brand that we can use for apps or website and the major states. And now we start to add the different shades and tones of the individual colors. So this is all coming up well together. And at this point, what we want to do is to simply create a duplicate and do the same for the other colors. So let's continue with one more at least, which is going to be the indigo. So the indigo is having this number right here. So I'm going to use this website again as a reference, and we're going to essentially add all of these in one single step. And let's go over here, and I'm going to make this one smaller. We're simply going to ignore this element right here, so we're going to focus on these ones. And we're going to start with this. It's going to be this one. It's going to be this one, and this one, and the very last. All right. Now, before we continue, a small note that I want to make is usually you'd like to keep the amount of shades and colors, I would say between 5 and 10 colors, depending on the project that you're tackling, because this can actually have an impact on the versatility of how many colors you might have. Doesn't really take that much extra space to to deal with these other ones, so it's really not an issue if you add more of them. So let's continue, and going to add the color code, these elements, and we're probably going to just add all of the other ones. And let's add this one right here. Perfect. Now at this point, what we want to do, again, go under the library, you know the drill by now, and we're going to write in indigo / 500, create style, plus indigo / 400, indigo / 300, and the same is going to apply for these other ones. Oops, 100. All right, so we also have the indigos. Now we have the slate, primary, and brand, and now I want you to continue and create the other ones, which are going to be a violet, green, orange, and red. You can add them all right here, duplicate, detach the style, as you know by now, and you can create all the other ones. Now, one more word of caution, if you wish, and as a reminder, when you're creating the design system, you also want to organize the different layer naming. And you can also leverage a design system which are already pre-built, and then you can simply adapt it. You don't need to reinvent the wheel each and every time you're creating a design system. I certainly don't whenever I'm working on a client project, but I certainly adapt them and customize it to meet the client specific tasks and goals overall. And I also have a personal design system which I created, and it's a design system that I leverage as my SOP and template. So you can do the same. You can create your own design system once, and then have it as a blueprint template to get started on a client project. Then you can customize it and adapt it, since it's likely going to be a scalable solution if you follow the points that I mentioned over here. So this is it for this very first video on how to create a design system. We're going to move on with the next core elements of a design system.